David Tulis.
The big local economy news today in Chattanooga is the national economy story about Amazon Day, which is going to be here. It will be 8 to noon today at the Amazon facility. People can register online and fight for, if they want the job, they can fight for it. Any of 1,000 jobs distributed between two centers, one in Chattanooga off Bonnie Oaks and the other one in Charleston. These are full-time positions. And across the 50 states, 100,000 applicants are sought to fill jobs that are very stressful, very difficult, require no skill, no training. You are taught everything that you need to know about Amazon's giant and complex and very rich system of packing and shipping for customers who expect a very quick service and get it. They receive their packages by FedEx Ground or UPS, sometimes U.S. Mail, bringing up the rear as it does. And they have fast service from Amazon, challenging as it is many retailers, many other businesses, and looking now for workers. I think the job is hard, and I have in my church several young men who've worked there, and they complain of the misery of the employment. There's no way you can do a good job. It's just impossible to make your quota. You have very high standards of shuffling about, getting things from the aisles, and meeting fulfillment. The whole purpose of these jobs is fulfillment of online orders, and there's no way you can ever get high marks. You're always under a huge pressure, a great deal of stress. You are just a cog in the machine. And I suspect that the need for workers continually at the Chattanooga facility is because of burnout and, well, resignation, disgust of those who are hired, who need the bread, they need their wages, but they move on hoping for better work, maybe easier work. Maybe that's it as well. People are sometimes not as aggressively laboring as they could, and so this work is just too hard. But that is the big news today here in Chattanooga. Hundreds sought, and thousands will be interviewed and looked at. Some will get offers on the spot, according to the story at TV3's website. Amazon Jobs Day, seeking to fill hundreds of positions here in Chattanooga. My name is David Tulis, and we are making the case for local economy over national. This is a national economy provider, and it has by its giant model of delivery. It's very quick delivery. Warehouses in many places. It can bring you the computer part. It can bring you the camera, the book, whatever you need. Large items and small. It can bring it very, very quickly to your doorstep. And using mail services and delivery services in a major way, and well, is Amazon good for local economy? Well, these are other questions that we look at sometimes, and I would say it's good to have a job if you don't have one, but I question how sustainable these are, and how what is the toll? I ask, what is the toll on the individual who is the shopper? What is the toll on the individual who is the fulfillment worker, like those who are hired in this big day that will last until noon today, and people will be coming from all around the area to apply for work. There are no training needed, no prior experience needed. We offer a comprehensive training for all our employees once they come to work at Amazon. All of that training will take care of it once you come to work for us, says Allie Hutchins, the spokeswoman at Amazon. We're going to talk today about the coming police chief. Mayor Andy Burke has not named his choice yet for the top cop position, the law enforcement position. We are a city government, and the mayor has in his service in the executive branch this police department, this military department, and he has three candidates: Edwin McPherson, David Roddy, and Captain Todd Chamberlain from the LAPD, who were given as names among about 50 candidates. These were three selected by a choice committee of five, vetted by this committee, and he is apparently looking at these three, and no word yet on whom he will pick. These are, I think it's a good occasion as we are seeing the passage of Fred Fletcher as chief. He was chief for 3 years. We can ask, what is this organization all about? What is its job? What is its authority? And I'm one who asks about authority. Where does the power come from to effect arrests, for example? I was reading this morning I have a very large stacks around my office, and I was reading in Tennessee jurisprudence the clipping I'd made from the Tanger, as it's called, the Tanger at UTC Library, a volume I would love to have. If you, my listener, by the way, have a set of Tennessee jurisprudence encyclopedias, I would love to take them off your hands. Just let me know that I can come and fetch that set. And I was reading about arrest. You know that just for example, an interesting tidbit: an officer who's in hot pursuit, who leaves his lawful jurisdiction, loses his corporate capacity and becomes in the chase a citizen. And he makes his arrest as a private citizen, though he is wearing the garb of the uniform. He's in a police car. He may have weaponry assigned to him. He may have clothing assigned to him by his employer, the city government back behind where he is. And his arrest of the individual is as a private citizen. So you, my listener, have that power. It's a very stated very early on in this story. This is long essay about the power of arrest. It inheres in you, the listener, and it inheres, of course, in the officer. An arrest may be made either by an officer under a warrant, by an officer without a warrant, or by a private person. Those are the three people who may make an arrest. Also, when a public offense is committed in the presence of a magistrate, he may, by verbal or written order, command any person to arrest the offender. So a judge, if he sees a crime being committed, he can order you, my listener, just a businessman, right, sitting there in the court. If there's no other officer available, he can order you to arrest the man he is witnessed as having committed an offense. So it is a common law power of arrest. These are points made early on in this lengthy report that runs about maybe about 40 pages, and which I was rereading this morning as I was thinking about the police chief and thinking about the whole matter of arrest. Anthony Byrd, the city council member, who indicates a personal connection and personal respect for Edwin McPherson as the proposed chief, says that he has been stopped many times by the police, just walking while black, standing while black, drinking a Coke while black, things of this kind. And I'm asking now the question: what is an arrest? And we have a dispute about that. The Tennessee Valley Authority, which now is involved in traffic stops in Hamilton County and Chattanooga, and it may have been for some time, now is engaging in commercial transportation stops, as they're called, on the highway. The spokesman, Scott Fiedler, says that in our coverage last week of a family being arrested, he says, well, they weren't arrested because they weren't taken to the magistrate. Well, an arrest is simply in the definition. The very first lines of this report is an arrest is the taking, seizing, or detaining of a person of another, either by touching or putting hands on him, or by any act which indicates an intention to take him into custody and subjects the person arrested to the actual control and will of the person making the arrest. So if you're stopped, you are arrested. Okay, the blue light, according to State versus Garcia, 2003. Upon turning on the blue lights, the officer has clearly initiated a stop and has seized the subject of the stop within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment and the Tennessee Constitution, Article 1, Section 7. So that's State versus Garcia. So the moment the lights are on behind you, listener, you are under arrest. If you're not free to leave, you are under arrest. And so why do people such as Anthony Byrd, our city council member, who's black, And why do common people such as Hanson Melvin, who is, I'd say, the prototypical man of color, late 20s, he's married, has 3 children, a working man. He's worked many jobs in the Hickson area and in this northern part of Chattanooga. And he has been stopped 30 times, he tells me. And then, of course, the Hanson Melvin story, of course, you know that this is the story that we have. This is our story. And we've covered it extensively here at Nooga Radio and also at Nooganomics.com. And he has filed a $500,000 lawsuit against the city and against Officer David Campbell for an abusive arrest marked by lies, oppression, kidnapping, and many other criminal offenses that the state is not going to prosecute. Right, the state will not prosecute these crimes by the officer, and in fact, eight officers altogether, some of whom are not known. The state will not prosecute these as crimes. Neil Pinkston has not raised his hand against these offenses, and so Hanson Melvin has had to do it on his own, and the damages that he deserves will be cut by a third by his attorney. Right, the attorney working on contingency gets paid his third, and so justice may reign soon in that case, but at a great cost to the individual. These are men who are arrested. Right, they're arrested when they're stopped. And walking while black, walking outside of his apartment while black, Hanson Melvin it was demanded of him to show your driver's license, give your social security number. And then what no one quoted was something that the Times Free Press edited version of that arrest had, and that was, you're on government property. Because you're on government property, we have a proprietary interest in you, we the police, and you are under arrest. And that was said twice that evening in May last year. Rochelle Gelpin, the other victim of the statement and of arrest without probable cause, the victim of perjury, false arrest, and oppression. Those are crimes, okay? Those are not just torts. They are crimes. Crimes by the city police. And so as we think of the coming chief, will he bring reforms? In a way, I think there's an advantage to having an outside party. And the committee named this Todd Chamberlain as the outsider, offering the mayor someone with a fresh view, right? Someone who can move things around and not be inured to change. If you're in the police department and you've been there for years, as have David Roddy and Edwin McPherson, it's easy to let things go as they are because you have all kinds of people and personalities built up around systems and customs as they exist. And so change in a way is harder if you're an insider than if you're an outsider. So one could say there's an advantage naming the man from the LAPD who has, as a kind of specialty, is control of the homeless. That's one of his beat is the homeless beat. The homeless people around the country generally given very bad treatment by police, though the vagrancy statutes have been thrown out as unconstitutionally vague. Still, homeless people and people who help homeless people often endure harassment, as we have seen across the country, and this LAPD Todd Chamberlain is involved in that good work, as we're told. So there may be an advantage to having someone from out of town, but the advantage of having someone like Edwin McPherson is he knows everybody. He knows everybody in Chattanooga, and is well respected. And so the problem with him being that way, being so local, and having the great wealth of local knowledge. Knowing all the players, all the parts, all the interests, all the neighborhoods, the families of gang members. I mean, he knows all these families. He knows all the uncles and the aunts and the distant dads who gave up their children at birth. He knows everybody, and has that advantage. But the problem is, if there's a problem, it's hard to pull away. It's 800-8949, 800-8949 if you want to chime in. Again, this is David Tulis, and we're here at Nooga Radio, and we cover local economy and the free market. And I want to get to a question about the loss of nerve. And it's something I'm reading an article about a biblical analysis of terrorism by Bojidar Marinov. It's from a website, Christendom Restored, and he runs Reconstruction Radio and has numerous devout Christian men applying the scriptures to policy questions. And he says essentially that Christianity has given way to fear. And the main thing to know if you're not a Christian about Christians is that they have every reason to be the most confident and most courageous people in the world, because they know that God loves them. They have eternal security in the next life, and they have, one would hope, a better sense of right and wrong than common people whose ideas are merely man-made, right? Merely fashioned from custom, or some interest in power, which is the source of many personal opinions held by non-Christian people who have no fear of God, no love for God. And the argument says that we've lost our nerve, Christians particularly, who have the greatest duty to maintain liberty, to maintain justice. They have lost their nerve in fear, and that's what the terrorists want. Terrorist organizations, they hate not, and perhaps our military might. What they hate the most is liberty and justice, which are things, which are social virtues, social forms of social capital, which draw many Muslims into Christianity and draw many Muslims to want to come here. Right? They come here because they know there's the rule of law. You can't have arbitrary detentions. You can't have arbitrary arrests. You can maintain your personal opinions and not be put into jail. Right? You can wear the clothes you want. And so it's really liberty and justice that the terrorists are making war upon. Those things which they oppose, and they destroy those things in their bombings and their murders by creating security states, right? And because we have given in to fear of man rather than fear of God, Marinoff suggests we are turning against the Lord Jesus. We're turning against our Creator. And here's what we accept. He says that we accept different rules for the homeborn than for strangers, and his access to the economic opportunities of the land should be limited, right? The stranger should have limited access to opportunities. There should be different laws for the stranger and for the homeborn. That's something that's against the biblical theory. Government must be given the power to control the movement of non-criminal individuals, right? If you have a security state, you have to have traffic stops, right? You have to have checkpoints. You have to have body checks, cavity searches. You have to have controls at airports that your daughter went through when she came here to visit from college. Control of non-criminal individuals, even to the point of banning its own citizens from traveling without passports or other means of identification. Because, as you know, security trumps liberty. That is another argument that Christians have accepted. All foreigners, now here's another big one, must be guilty by default for the crimes of a few, unless proven innocent by a process of vetting, which of course is in the hands of the federal government. Real witnesses for individual crimes are not needed. Rumors of crimes establishing a collective guilt, well, that's enough. And suspicions based or irrelevant speculation or false data. 97, here's some examples. 97% of them are young men of fighting age, or 60% of women in Sweden are raped by Muslims, or all crimes in Norway are committed by immigrants, or ISIS fighters take over Germantown. These are scare headlines that we've all seen repeatedly from Gatestone Institute and others. The function of the civil government is not justice anymore. Christians now believe the function of government is not justice anymore, but it's safety and security, which means preventative justice and preemptive executive action, which boils down to this: show me your papers. And that's why Anthony Byrd has been stopped 40, 50, or 60 times. He said, when I asked him, when I first met him, I said, how many times have you been stopped by the cops? That's a question I ask every young man I know, especially if he's of color. And he said 30, 40, or 50. That's what he said. He couldn't answer. It was so many, he just didn't have time to really think of the number. And so he threw out a very wide range of stops. Show me your papers. You are guilty, and you must show me that you're innocent. You must show me about not just saying who you are, but you must show me an ID. Now, I need to check the Tennessee statute on the ID law, but I think if you just state your name and address and maybe your birth date, that's sufficient. And if he's going to cite you to court, that's all he needs with which to do it. He does not need to see a paper document of any kind. Your ID is what you say you are. After all, you have a duty to tell him the truth. You can't make a false statement to a cop, but you can certainly not make any statement at all. And if he has issued you a proper citation to Sessions Court, Gary Starnes or other, well, then you need only to give your name, and your address and your date of birth. That's all. The perceived danger of Muslim terrorism justifies aggressive wars in retaliation. Marinov says, directed against people who have nothing to do with terrorist acts and are themselves victims of Muslim terrorism or oppressive regimes. So because we've lost our nerve, we people who are professing Christians we accept effectively tyranny. We accept arrest without probable cause. And so now we have the new chief coming, and there are reasons for reform. There are calls for reform. The main one, if I had to boil it all down to one point, is reversal of the order. Rather than 100 hours of training in weapons use and defensive tactics, there should be 100 hours of negotiation and de-escalation training and 8 hours of weapons training. A complete reversal. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader.